He is the chosen one. You must see it.
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
Is he the chosen one?
He is.
And it is the Jedi who will stand in the way of peace.
It's not whether or not we fight.
It's how we choose to fight that matters.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
The Force will be with you, always.
I will not be the last Jedi.
You're listening to The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast where we've been marathoning all of Star Wars in lead up to The Rise of Skywalker, and right now, this is our third episode about Star Wars Rebels. We are talking about Season 1, Episode 5, Rise of the Old Masters, Episode 6, Breaking Ranks, and Episode 7, Out of the Darkness. My name's Yates.
My name's Jordan.
My name's Jessica.
And my name's Keats.
Exclamation. All right, so last week we learned a lot more about Zeb and Ezra, and there was allusions to Ezra beginning his Jedi training more formally. And that is where the first episode of these three starts off. In Rise of the Old Masters, Ezra and Kanan are having difficulties in the training process. And Kanan is questioning whether or not he is even equipped to be a teacher in the way that he was taught. And at a critical point in the beginning, they receive a distress call stating that Luminara Unduli, a Jedi Master that we've seen before in the Clone Wars, is alive, and they go on a mission to attempt to rescue her. And unfortunately, this is all a trap that has been set up by one of the main antagonists from Season 1, which is the Grand Inquisitor.
Are you paying attention, boy? The Jedi are dead. But there is another path. The dark side.
Never heard of it.
Have you taught him nothing?
I think my favorite part of like the introduction of the Inquisitor is just where Ezra and the Inquisitor are having like a one-on-one, and he's like trying to convince him to come to the dark side. But the fact that he's like listing off all of Kanan's shortcomings, but then Ezra still decides to stick with him.
And he has the best line, which is like, "Oh, he's perfect for me then."
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
I loved how like bad Kanan was.
Yeah,
as like
me
a teacher,
too.
he was like getting frustrated and he was getting angry with Ezra.
Yeah, he was being mean to him.
Yeah, and
They were all being mean to him.
You're undisciplined and full of self-doubt.
And whose fault is that, Master?
It's difficult to teach.
He means it's difficult to teach you.
He was taking it out on Ezra because he knows it's his fault and he doesn't know how to like process that. And the same thing with Zeb. Like Zeb was mad that he like caused him to fall off of the ship by like egging Chopper on with all the milk crates or whatever they were.
But it's really
Zeb's fault, and he doesn't know how to like process it, so they just blame him.
I thought that was like for the most part clear in the storytelling, at least on the Kanan end of it.
Yeah,
just like that Kanan,
Zeb
not with I think Zeb sometimes he's just like ugh, you know.
Zeb can be a dick.
Yeah, but Kanan definitely, I got the impression that it's he's just projecting frustrations that he has with himself, especially as the episode goes on.
They did such a good job throughout the episode of like fleshing that out, like how. I mean, after reading more about his backstory and knowing, like, he was a little kid when the Jedi Order came apart, and, like, then when the Inquisitor was saying that, like, he failed certain subjects and, like, he was undisciplined, and, I mean, I felt like they were very Force powerful in the episode, like, maybe...
Yeah, definitely.
To the point of disbelief that they would be so Force powerful, but...
I could see where... It feels kind of like a suspension of disbelief viewing it, but then you have very many examples of just like the Force coming to you like as a reflex ability, where it's like more natural when you really need it, or it's a life or death situation.
Like in Endorphin, the situations that he's put in, it's just like a naturalistic, like response.
And I was also thinking like maybe they have more power because it's being used less by like all the other Jedis, because there's not that many Jedis on the scene. So even though like they both come from like this kind of humble background, maybe that's why they can do so much with it.
I think also just like in a way, the Sith, like, using their emotion to give them more strength is, like, kind of right, because you saw how strong Kanan was when he, like, had the emotional investment of, like, I can't let Ezra be killed by the Inquisitor, and he, like, was able to, like, stop his hand and then push him against the ceiling.
Totally.
Yeah,
like, he would not have been able to do that if he wasn't emotionally invested in saving Ezra.
Isn't that how the Jedi used to be more? Like, they used to be more tapped into their emotions, and then, like, something happened, and they became, like, didn't the Jedi used to be able to, like, have partners and attachments?
I don't think
I read that somewhere.
That might have been in the EU, but I don't think... The fact of the matter is, when it comes to the old Jedi, we don't really have anything to go off of specifically.
It's like canon.
Yeah, presumably there was a point where they were, like, still, like, figuring out what the rules were, and then someone said, hey, these are the rules. But we don't have anything concrete stating otherwise. But I mean, I think certainly that is the case with honestly most of the characters. I mean, Luke for sure, Rey for sure, and then Anakin definitely too, but Anakin's like an example of like how that's bad, but Luke and Rey might be an example of how that could be good.
Yeah, it doesn't ruin anything for me. I'm not like, oh, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just more fun. Like the action's more exciting. Like that's it. Like,
I think it was
fine with that.
If we're still talking about like them opening the door or whatever, I think it was still probably mostly Kanan doing it.
Yeah, I think
maybe
we
like
even see like Ezra open his eyes like prior to like the door even being fully open.
It's also like a motif that they bring back again a couple times. It's like
like you need two to open the door.
Yeah, two opening a door together. Yeah. So
well, I love like seeing them work together, and I liked seeing their relationship develop more, and the whole do or do not, there is no try.
Oh, that was a cool use of a callback.
I love that.
I love how he didn't even like believe it when he said it.
Yeah,
he just said it because like, oh, I heard it all the time.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
I myself personally have like thought about that quote a lot of like do or do not, there is no try, and I feel like it comes up in life a lot too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But my dad quotes it all the time.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, what does that mean?
And it's such like a not memeable, but like it's like. Also, like at a meta level, like it's one of those things that fans just say, like it's on T-shirts.
They don't
it's
think
on, like,
about it.
Yeah, and then it's
normies say it.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like a total like just world quote.
It's
now.
a thing. Yeah, it's just like it's almost like connotative. Like it's just it doesn't really mean anything. It just more
means
of
like do your best.
An idea that connects to other ideas.
And I think like if we're talking about meta, like Kanan is maybe like the fan where he was like, hey, try not to stay focused.
Hey,
and
like,
then
remember
Ezra,
the original trilogy? Like remember those movies and then like Ezra's like, what is that? What does that even mean?
Yeah, you told me like there is no try. Where it's like people don't actually think about like what they're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that they actually like not explain like directly, but they actually have to like they actually crack the code on it. It's not just
it's part of the the It's really one of the through lines of the story.
It's the best way to like do some callback like that because they actually made it meaningful and like really and that is a great quote, and what it's telling you is, you know, you can't just try to do something. You have to really believe in yourself and just do it. But it's true that, like, how can you do something for the first time without trying to do it?
Well, see, actually that one always confused me too, but Master Yoda sure used to say it a lot.
Especially if someone's telling you that as a teaching, it is frustrating because, of course, you're in that mindset of trying when you're first learning how to do something.
Yeah, it's like Kanan's like not using the right tools at the right times. He's just sort of like throwing whatever he has out there, and it's just like
he doesn't have a lot.
He doesn't have
he's trying to teach him. He's like doing his best, but he also is kind of like
lacking in faith.
And also, like, for all he knows, he's one of the last Jedis left. And he's like, that's a lot to put on your shoulders to be, like, bringing the next generation if you have so little yourself. And then he's just, like, throwing a quote out there, like, oh, I don't really know what that means. Yeah. And then they find out, like, together. Mm-hmm. And I love how, like, through the episode, as Ezra keeps saying, like, I'm being focused. And, like, he's the student is kind of teaching the teacher, and they're helping each other. I love that.
Wow, isn't that how relationships work?
Yes, it is. Good relationships. Bad relationships is just conflict.
Good job.
Come to your senses!
Go back to your quarters and cool off.
So the most critical moment in terms of the plot is that, as I had said before, it's revealed that Luminara actually never was alive. Well, she was...
She's a mummy now, dog.
She's a mummy now, dog. And it was all a trap by the Grand Inquisitor. Kanan's been betting on sort of giving away Ezra to Luminara because he's so, doubts his ability to teach Ezra. And that sort of goes out the window. But then in addition to that, they're face up against an enemy that's A, smarter than all the other villains that they've come up against before, and B, like a huge, physical intimidation. He can hold himself against Kanan. Honestly, he's probably, from what we got in this episode, is as good, if not better, a fighter than Kanan.
I, bought into his villainy in the episode. I wasn't like, he's a stupid villain. Like, he felt like a villain I want to see more from, and, he's interesting, and he is Sith, right?
Bro! What the fuck? Bro, what the fuck? I mean, come on. There's only 2 Sith. I don't think he's, really, a Sith. He's, a dark side assassin or whatever. I hated this idea when I first heard about it and first watched the show. Just because I was like, wow, now there's, so many, dark side users. There's just all these guys running around that look scary with, lightsabers that spin and killing people. How is this not, relevant in, the media or, in the public? I like the Dark Times comics of the EU. Vader getting, info that there's, this one Jedi on this one planet, and then him going there personally because he has such, a personal vendetta against all of them that he just wants to fucking eradicate them because he can't stand them. I think that's great.
It's kind of
this is his story.
It's kind of weird to think about, there being a Sith bureaucracy where it's the Sith Inquisitors, and what do we have, Sith doctors or other Sith professionals?
We have Jedi doctors, so yeah.
Yeah, so it's just, the more I think about it, the more that doesn't work for me. It's either there's the rule of 2 or there's not.
Yeah, so this is playing loose with the rules by saying, and Jordan kind of alluded to it when he was first talking about it, but basically the idea is that these guys don't know everything. They're being kept out of the loop, but they're as strong as they need to be to get the job done, basically.
It gets stupid when you look into it too far, but if they have a home planet, the group, what is their home planet?
Oh, Lothal.
Lothal. And he's the Grand Inquisitor, and he knows about Kanan and Ezra. Well, I mean, even with our technology in our world, it wouldn't be hard to track his ship to the home planet that he keeps going back to again and again and again. It would just seem like it would be really easy to track him down and kill him. If they keep going back to the same planet.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they are though. I mean, this is only the 6th episode, and this is his first encounter that he's actually calculated and made a whole plan on how he wants to capture them inside their own base. It could be a recurring thing.
There's a lot I don't remember, but I remember being very happy with the Inquisitor story the first season. So I think there's just enough of him where I hope you'll be satisfied and not be too critical of that. I think they'll address it well enough.
It's a small nitpick, and it doesn't have anything to do with the story, which I've praised already. It's just the lightsaber just looks so stupid as well. Really a spinning lightsaber, double blade.
And
it's so cool.
It's a boomerang, too.
It's so lame. And it gets worse. I'll save it. It gets worse than boomerang.
Okay.
Jordan signing off?
Jordan signing off.
I also think that, I guess my crowd of people is basically these 2, but also just
my crowd of people on the internet.
But no, but on the internet I don't see as much hate for it as I get from these 2. I don't think the Inquisitors are that frowned upon.
I mean, I like the Inquisitors.
I
like the Inquisitors. I don't like
some specific features of the Inquisitors that we'll get into.
It would have been so cool. I just it would look more natural. If they had their own specific lightsabers that was unique to them, or it just looked normal, not so flashy and over the top, because the suit is already flashy enough. It's cool. It's a mix between Sith look, I guess, and Imperial outfit, because it is technically a uniform if you look at it. But just that's already flashy enough. I don't need a freaking boomerang spinning lightsaber that's Darth Maul ripoff because it looks cool and sells toys. All right, now I'm signing off. I'm sorry.
What made you like it a bit more this time around, watching it a second time?
The story's good. That's literally it. I was thinking about it when we were watching. I was like, damn.
Well, do you think the story is good based on the knowledge of the series as a whole, or do you think that it's like standing on its own within its own episode?
No, the series as a whole.
Like we were watching in chronological order, you hadn't seen Rebels before like Jessica is doing, you still wouldn't like the Inquisitor, probably.
Probably not, no.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's grown on me now just because the story is so good.
I do think it's important to note, so like this whole episode was about, Kanan sort of working through, ways in which he thinks he's like not the right teacher for Ezra. In that way, the Grand Inquisitor is like a pretty good villain for that point in the story, because the Grand Inquisitor seems to know just about everything. Like, he totally sees through, everything that Kanan's doing, like explaining Kanan's fighting style to him as they're fighting. And just in general, like the moment you referenced earlier with him like appealing to Ezra that, Kanan is just like not a good Jedi, like that's what that whole scene's about. It's like, hey, like knowledge and power is over here, with me. It's not with Kanan. And, he's not exactly lying. Like, he does have the knowledge, and he does have, especially we got to think of the point in time we're at, the Jedi Order that had all this knowledge and, some amazing resources and, like, the gigantic library and stuff. And,
I love that. The callback to the library.
Yeah, like, all of these things that we took for granted in the prequels don't exist anymore. The knowledge is valuable, and, like, that's what the Grand Inquisitor has to offer for Ezra is, the things that Kanan maybe knows but doesn't have the full picture on because he was just too young to understand all these things when he was a kid.
Well, I think it's also like you can feel it when he goes back on the ship and talks to Hera.
Master Luminara?
Gone. We'll have to find a way to spread the word.
How's Ezra taking it?
Not as bad as I am.
Really, like, you could feel like the emotionality that he felt of, like, this really fucking sucks. Like, he thought he'd find someone. But Ezra's much more in the present. He's, like, the new generation, He has no, like, historical frame for, like, the Jedi and the temple and all the infrastructure and history that the Jedi had. He's just, like, heard legends about it. But he's really more about, well, what can I do right now? Like, I just want to learn to survive right now.
I like Kanan. I want to be with Kanan.
Right.
That's that simple.
He didn't want, like, a prestigious teacher. He just wants who he has.
Look, I just wanted you to have the best teacher.
Well, I don't want the best teacher. I want you. Not that you're not the best.
Ezra, I'm not gonna try to teach you anymore. If all I do is try, that means I don't truly believe I can succeed. So from now on, I will teach you. Look, I may fail. You may fail, but there is no try.
I understand.
I actually teared up for the first time.
I really loved the moment too. It was incredibly sweet.
There's just so many, like, levels of beauty there. And I said it already, but just how the Padawan is, like, teaching the master, like, and, like, he's only the master because his Padawan is calling him master, and, like, how they're so, like, alone, like, they're so alone in the galaxy, and
but they have each other, and it's enough.
Exactly, and they don't know what they're doing, but they're gonna figure it out, and, like, it's just such a beautiful moment for Ezra and his beautiful heart, and then just seeing this, like, Jedi Master who's, like, very powerful and, like, cool and badass, like, being so vulnerable and, like, being afraid to be a teacher, and that he doesn't feel ready, but he has to be ready. They just have to be ready because they're up against the odds.
The second episode, Breaking Ranks. Ezra's on a mission to infiltrate the Imperial Training Academy. This is not just where, the normal stormtroopers go. This seems to be like a program, or possibly a pilot program, for training kids. Ezra is pit against two of his fellow cadets, and he has to navigate trying to help them as he grows to like them and befriend them, but also to continue his mission to stop the Empire, and I believe it also involves getting a massive shipment of kyber crystals out of the hands of the Empire as well.
What do you need that decoder for? My friends need it to stop an Imperial shipment. How'd you know about the sensors?
From my sister, Dara. She was the star cadet in this place. She knew the entire Imperial complex backwards and forwards.
What happened to her?
Well, they told us she ran off, but I don't believe it. What were you doing breaking into Callus's office? That's a great way to get shot.
Long story, but I need that decoder. And I could use a partner who knows his way around.
What's in it for me?
Do you really need a reason to mess with the Empire?
I really liked the world building in terms of seeing what the Empire like really looks like. But I also really liked putting the perspective back in like a kid's point of view and just having the 3 kids be like the main focus of the story. I thought that to me was kind of the most exciting thing, was just like seeing like how do kids like react to the Empire and like having that mindset forced on them.
And how do they grow up with the Empire?
Jordan, did you want to talk about just like the Imperial like Academy side of it and like how that all worked?
I loved it. That was really cool. A nice callback to Clone Wars, the little training center.
Yeah, it feels like both like the clone trooper like training area and also like the box at the same time.
Yeah.
When they're talking about how the Inquisitor is going to take 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because they were searching for like 2 kids that were Force sensitive?
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
I think that's the implication, yeah.
And then they're going to like keep them trapped.
Yeah, this goes way back to the first season of the Clone Wars.
Master, subjects of this age rarely survive the slave conditioning procedure.
I'm afraid the risk is necessary. The natural talent these children possess is too great to be wasted by the Jedi. I foresee an army of Force-talented spies in my service, trained in the dark side to peer into every corner of the galaxy from afar. And my enemies would be helpless against such vision.
And so,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, this is
That
presumably
sounds cool.
that purpose of like training people to be these Inquisitors. And it's like showcased all the way back in the Clone Wars.
I got the sense that, you know, when they were training all the kids, it was almost like they were taking some of the methods that the Jedi used, you know, of like having academies where you train like promising young kids. So that was one thing. But then another thing is, we were talking about this in another episode, where there will always be new Jedis because there's always going to be new Force sensitive kids that are born. So like, how do you have like a way to entrap,
have them enlist in academies and then find out which ones are Force sensitive,
and then send the Inquisitors to
Right.
take care of them.
Exactly.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
This show's smart.
Well, and then another thing, it was good with having just watched the Inquisitor appear in the previous episode, that threat hasn't gone away. So having him like be like sort of the end of the line of this episode, where for the last 5 minutes there's this added layer of tension that the Inquisitor's coming to Lothal. It's just it's just a nice reminder. It's being able to binge watch the show like does add another layer of like, oh yeah, like we're still hot off of this story that just happened.
Yeah, the show's very good with like continuity so far. It's
pretty much
really
every
good track
episode.
record.
There's just one thing that is referenced.
Yeah, like they mentioned the TIE fighter being stolen.
Yeah, all that stuff is great.
Yeah. It's crazy how like hopped up on power everyone is, like that's attached to the Empire. Like that blonde lady.
Yeah.
She thinks she's like a bad bitch, and like all of these Empire people, they're all like from the lowest to the highest, they're all walking around like, yeah, I'm Empire, I'm so great.
Yeah,
and
Grit
like,
is so gross.
Did you guys catch that one part though, where it's like the character's face that we never see in episode 2 with the green helmet, where he's like, Griff, it looks like he took your lesson to heart, and then he kind of just like looks down in shame. Like, you had to, like, rough him up?
Yeah. I realized that, too. Like, he, like, definitely, like, fucked with this kid's head or something, like, after he failed.
Damn.
You guys didn't catch that?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, that's when he, like, started, like, shooting against them, like, actually trying to, like, beat them. Like, instead of he just started, like, shooting them to, like, make them fall. And then the skinny guy said to the fat guy. Yeah.
I thought the characters of some of the kids were cool.
You're trying to get me busted out of the academy.
Yeah, but not the way you think. The Inquisitor...
Please! I don't believe this Inquisitor exists, and even if he does, then maybe it's a good thing. The Inquisitor trains me, I get a top rank in the Empire.
Kel, you got a family?
It's just me and my mother.
And how would she feel if she never saw you again?
I love that, because, like, first he seemed like kind of like shitty.
Like sort of like a jockey
like
type
a
of
shitty, like
gotta win the game.
Like a very like fashy,
Yeah.
like bad guy. And I thought that he was gonna be like a bad kid that when Ezra pushed him down, like he was gonna rat him out later or something.
Yeah, I kind of thought that they were leading it that direction too, and I'd seen this before.
But I really liked how when they tried to save him, like his whole reasoning was like, I'm going to go into the Empire, like I'm going to work hard, and then I'm going to succeed, you know, help my family.
I loved that. Where
it just seemed so realistic.
I loved where they're like, but you'll be abducted by the Inquisitor. He's like, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, like that's further
that's
to my career.
He was like, well, maybe it'll be okay. And just like seeing the normal people like fall in line with the Empire and what their rationale is. But then when they asked him like, you know, do you have a family? And then he's like, well, it's just my mom. Like you could kind of tell that maybe
there's a story.
I love how for everyone, the question is, do you have a family? And it's such a question in this world right now because so many people have lost their families or have lost parts of their families. And that's what like motivates all of these like average people to do like crazy shit. I like the reveal, too, at the beginning of the episode.
The reveal of Leonis. Like, it is a kind of twist where he's just like, no, I'm actually kind of here on my own mission. But he's not connected to the rebellion directly. He is just looking for his sister.
Well, I mean, the whole time was like, is that really true? Or is it like a trap or something?
I wasn't even thinking that, but it definitely could have been, yeah. It is, like, the character of Leonis. They don't really follow up his story in the show.
Why?
Give me that blaster. Why? Because I'm staying.
Why?
Find my sister.
Why?
Because I'm staying. Because I'm staying. Because
I think he has like a little spin-off junior novel.
That bothers me that they're not going to follow up on him because that was such a cool storyline.
What they do, you have to read the book.
He was a cool character, and I was super scared for him being trapped.
Yeah, I was invested in his story, especially if they choose to. They leave it at a cliffhanger, so them not following up is kind of like party foul. Yeah,
they dropped the ball because even Ezra was like, "Stay in touch." I was like, "Oh, great!" Like third episode after this.
There is a spin-off junior novel, and they revealed that this Imperial Training Academy idea is actually like the whole idea of recruiting kids is actually something that pays off in The Force Awakens, and that they're like prototyping like this sort of indoctrination thing for the stormtroopers that show up in the First Order. And that actually Hux's dad, Brendel Hux,
Hux, yeah.
He is the one that takes Leonis to his Imperial Academy.
That's really
cool.
Dude,
see, Disney knows what they're doing. Cut that out. People hate me. You know what? Fuck it. Leave it in.
In Out of Darkness, we begin on a TIE fighter chase. This episode has a bit more of a focus on Sabine and Hera, and Sabine has questions about who they're getting their orders from, who they're getting their jobs from, what is the big picture here, and Hera is a little coy on giving answers, as well as Kanan. And then Hera and Sabine are put in a life and death situation with glowy-eyed monsters, and it's kind of Ezra and Zeb's fault. In fact, it definitely is. Everybody gets away in the end. This is Out of Darkness. Thoughts?
Hated it. Disliked it.
It was fine when it started, and then it just got less and less interesting.
The dialogue was just really unnatural and bland, cheesy.
It was
bad.
Just too many like back and forths where it's like, I'm saying something sassy. Now I'm saying something sassy. And then just like 15 minutes straight of that. And then just the whole thing of like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. It's like, really, I have to watch all of, like, it's just not, it wasn't interesting.
It wasn't exciting.
What about phase 5? Oh, we didn't plan for phase 5. Oopsies. Like,
it felt like the script just said action for 5 minutes on it. And then just like, let's throw the actors in the booth and see what they're capable of.
It did not work for me at all. Like, first of all, they can't keep doing this where the three of them have their like little play fight and their roughhousing.
Three of them meaning Ezra.
Chopper, Ezra, and
Zeb.
And it's just, don't keep reusing that where they're fighting and they mess it up because they're just fighting. It's getting to a point where it's immature. It doesn't make sense within the context of what they're doing. Like they're doing,
or how
like,
their characters have been building.
Right, like they're doing like actual dangerous stuff with high stakes. And if these people are like smart people that we should respect, then they can't keep like making major mistakes like this to fuck everything up.
I think this was like the turning point though, because at the end they really do apologize and it seems really sincere.
Sure, I guess that's true, because most of the other episodes, like when they do something like that, it's always like it was his fault. It was his fault. It was his fault.
Even they actually realize like, fuck, you could have died.
Look, Hera, I'm sorry about not checking the diagnostic.
We're all sorry. Right, Chopper? Anyway, we'll fix the Phantom.
Don't even worry about it.
Now, why would I worry?
As long as they just stop it now and stop relying on roughhousing as a plot device, that's fine. But if they keep returning to that, that's getting really old.
One thing that didn't work for me is just like I didn't really buy the threat. Like I thought I thought the creatures like weren't very scary. That was an element of it. It was basically a creature feature episode. And I'm fine with that. Like I've seen plenty of creature feature like sci-fi stories before. I kind of like that stuff.
Yeah, I thought this episode could have worked if there was just a little bit more to it.
It could have been instead it felt like someone said, let's do a creature feature episode. Whoever was actually directing it just like half committed to idea.
It felt like they phoned it in, or like they were like, okay, I have to submit this project last minute or something. I also don't like the fact that they were monsters who couldn't go into the light. Because I just feel like you've seen those types of monsters like a bajillion times of like, oh, they're afraid of the sun, like every other fucking
They're essentially like rat bats.
I think in terms of the plotting, like everything made sense, but just the stakes weren't there. And especially in like the show where we've been talking like every episode we've been watching, wow, the stakes are so high. Like there's so many
invested.
I'm so invested like in an episode where now like that feeling isn't there. It's like a palpable feeling. It's like hard to ignore.
This is also like, even if it's not the first time, it's one of the first times we've seen them go to a different planet or like a different location before. Yeah. So like, and the fact that it's a Clone Wars era, like,
it's a cool setup. Like
it's a really cool setting.
It's a cool setting.
And if they had like explored a bit or like found some like some relics or like had to use old tech to like fend off against them, just like little things like that they can like integrate from the story. This reminded me of like a one-shot comic. The stakes are like super low, and you know what the beginning and end result. You know what the beginning and the end result are going to be, and you're supposed to like the thing you're supposed to take away is like a little thing that they plant inside the middle section of just like the Hera and Sabine dynamic, but overall the entire like read of it is so like short that it's not insulting, but it's also not valuable.
Honestly, and I know I'll get shit for this, but I felt this way about a lot of stuff within the Clone Wars, where it's like, okay, I'm like watching a trope play out, like a action trope, but it's within the Star Wars universe, and like I'm surprised we haven't gotten more of this already. But I mean, it's fine. It's just definitely the worst episode so far of the show.
I was just gonna praise like one part of it that I actually really enjoyed. I love when they first, because you mentioned when they first land on the planet, where the pacing was like super slow, super like in time with like real time, not like movie time where it's like cutting and stuff, where it was just them walking back and forth, just having like a normal conversation, putting the crates into the ship and then going back out.
You already know exactly what you need to know and no more. I need you to trust me now.
And that's supposed to make me feel better? Hera, you know what happened when I was a cadet at the Imperial Academy on Mandalore. I trusted the Empire, followed its orders blindly, and it was a nightmare.
I loved it. And then it just, when the action started, it was just like super basic cliche dialogue with them like shooting at barrels.
I do think like one thing within this episode that I guess connected it to something larger is when Hera said, you know, you have to trust that it's not just going to be us, that it's going to be a larger, picture. There's a bigger picture.
More than just the outer rim.
People that are going to be helping us. And that was one thing where I'm like, okay, this isn't just a throw out like episode. It's connected to this like something that's building.
Yeah, it's about like Sabine's kind of asking questions that we as the audience have as well, potentially.
We would just never ask them in that way.
Yeah, that's true.
And also like I didn't feel like they built up to it enough where I really bought the fact that Sabine was feeling so left out of the loop Like, why was she so upset that she didn't know about Fulcrum?
Because
I didn't understand the full context of that.
She mentioned it where she was in the Empire.
This is the only drama in the episode is like what happens in that relationship. And for me, I mean, I liked all of it. I thought it worked very well. But I think it starts off with like her being distrustful, and you're like, why is she being distrustful? And then the middle segment of the drama is the scene that you alluded to, Jordan, which is them like moving the crates from one area to another.
That's what she speaks about it.
Yeah, she says it was a complete nightmare. I think that alludes to there being more, but they don't give us more.
They don't, and maybe that's part of the point, is you're supposed to have like curiosity of like, what is it?
But
she
even
doesn't want
so,
to talk about it.
But even so, I'm still on the same boat as you, because like I did like the stuff that we got with them. I just felt like it was the bare minimum that they could have given us.
It was the bare minimum, for sure.
Yeah, and
just
like they could have given us a little bit more by cutting some of the action out.
Yeah, I think
it felt like forever.
I think so too, and I think they could have just done. I mean, even more in terms of the plotting, like it was just the plot was very straightforward, cut and dry.
Yeah.
And like Hera and Sabine being trapped on this planet is supposed to be greater because they're having a moment where they're working things out, and like 70% of the episode is just like the monsters, and the monsters don't work. So I don't get more out of Hera and Sabine's moment here.
I also wonder if it's like more of Star Wars not knowing how to write women characters, or like not knowing what to do with like female characters, is that when they were in the thick of it, they both had the same affect. I mean, you could have switched like the lines of either one for the other, and it was they both were just being like, haha, like, I'm a sassy, badass chick, like...
Tell me something I don't know! We're going to die! That's no secret!
They felt like the same type of character to me. Instead of being two unique characters, like, interacting with each other, growing together, like Zeb and Ezra, or like Kanan and Ezra, like, coming from different points of view and, like, changing together because they're interacting. It just seemed like, okay, they're both strong women.
Yeah.
Got it.
I agree.
Sabine needs to be more edgy.
But I think in the other episodes, like Sabine and Hera are written in a way that's distinct, but I do kind of agree, like, now that they're together, I mean, it's like the Bechdel test. One reason why it doesn't work as well, thinking about it now, is Hera and Sabine's relationship before this episode, not very much explored. Like, you know what we like about...
they barely speak.
About Kanan and Ezra is, like, there's a lot of continuity and a lot of development and a lot of changes in the dynamic episode to episode to episode.
And Zeb.
Yeah. The same thing with most of the characters. Like, the dynamic that we get in this doesn't exactly match up with what came up beforehand. And going forward, how much is this sort of, like, disagreement with them going to be addressed? To my recollection, it doesn't really affect the story abroad, while pretty much every other story we've gotten has, like, changed things. It's been impactful. Like, it's mattered to the characters. And I feel like we have this story that takes where the characters were beforehand, shakes things up ever so slightly, and then it ends with them exactly where they were before, for all things considered.
I mean, at the end, it kind of salvaged it a little bit when Hera went to talk to Sabine.
But know that I trust you. I just trusted you with my life down there.
I know you do.
Good. We are making a difference, Sabine. And I promise, we won't always be fighting this battle alone. Do you think you can trust me?
I think I can try.
Even like the part of the very end where it's like Hera and Sabine communicating, like, yeah, I can try to. It didn't even feel like
where anything was resolved.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like sincere or.
Well, she made a good point though, where she's like,
moment.
It was like Sabine's plan to use the barrels, and she was like, "I trusted you with my life, like we did your."
No,
plan.
I thought that stuff was good.
That was like a good point,
but it just felt like it didn't end in like the strong point that I wanted, because I like even going into that scene, I was like, okay, they're gonna have like a final like discussion. It's not just gonna end with like we win, the end. It's gonna be like, okay, this is gonna like have some communication.
Well, that was the final discussion.
That was the final discussion. It just wasn't written as well as I wanted it to be.
I mean, for me, that seems like super indicative of Sabine's character and like everything I know about Sabine's character.
Well, we don't know her character yet.
But I do.
I do too.
Right.
But we don't know it chronologically yet.
I know.
This
Well,
would
I'm
have been
just
the chance for them to do it differently.
I got you. I'm just saying that me having watched it later, that moment made more of an impact on me.
I mean, something I thought about with that moment was how just in like 2 episodes ago, the whole episode was about trying versus doing.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
And when she goes, I'll try, it's like, okay, well, that means that you're not really bought in. Which is exactly where we were in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But I guess, it also makes sense that she wouldn't be able to say right away.
It's also like you can't...
She's different than Ezra. She's coming from somewhere else than Ezra is. And she has a different test than Ezra does at the end.
It's also, you can't just go 4 seasons and not use the word try.
Yeah, but it's just, considering the show does like
it's literally like
things.
44 minutes later.
Yeah.
I noticed it. I picked it up too. Jessica, as the newcomer to Star Wars Rebels, with a kind of close to a flat line of a Sabine-centric story, are you still excited to see where she goes from here?
I felt more interested in her before this episode. Mm-hmm. And I think that was maybe part of my disappointment, is that I was more like, okay, like, she's an artist. She does weapons. She does languages. Like, her and Ezra have a thing. Like, there's some real promise here. But now I'm just like, yeah, you're not, like, living up to all of this potential that you're setting up like you did with the other characters. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, when I finished watching that episode, I wasn't like, okay, I'm done. I was like, okay, let's watch another episode, because this show has produced consistently good episodes, so I need another episode to get the taste of that episode out of my mouth. But I think I think it's just overall quality.
Like I said, like knowing how the story goes, like having a moment with Sabine in this episode, it added a little more for me, even though the episode itself wasn't as good. And, pretty much at every point through all of these episodes that we watched, I was excited because the story was good and I wanted to keep watching the story. But B, I was also excited for, some things that are foreshadowed and just being able to experience these characters like grow over time.
It's definitely better than I was anticipating the first season.
I think the heart of it that's motivating it, that makes me like excited to watch more, is also seeing Ezra become a Jedi. Like, that excites me.
Me too. And I was kind of like, I alluded to it in the other episode as well, just like, and they said they were going to train Ezra, like, when are we going to see that? And so we get more of that in these episodes, and I think next week we probably will as well. I have to double check, but yeah, exciting stuff. Next week, we are watching Season 1, Episode 8, Empire Day, Episode 9, Gathering Forces, and Episode 10, Path of the Jedi. My name is Yates.
My name's Jordan.
My name is Jessica.
And my name is Keats, and I went through that entire episode without saying that location from the final episode was going to be used in the new Clone Wars show.
Yes. Be with you.
Okay.